So yeah, if anyone has any questions, we can just start. Yeah.
What's your opinion? You think Canada is doing better or worse than the United States?
On what axis? It's probably melting less quickly. I don't know. Fewer hurricanes. Is Canada doing better or worse? I think Canada. I think when America sneezes, Canada gets a cold. So it doesn't. It's kind of. It's hard to disambiguate the two countries. I mean, Canada's dollar is not falling the way the American dollar is falling, but all that means is that Canada's export economy is collapsing because no one can afford to buy Canadian goods because they're so expensive because the Canadian dollar isn't falling. So I don't know. I think that I think we kind of all rise and sink in the same boat now. So it's kind of hard to distinguish. Much as I believe in things like national sovereignty, it's going to be hard to tease those two apart. Yeah.
It seems to me that you're really trying to reach a certain younger segment in your books.
Uh-huh.
How many people under 20? Do you have any idea of the demographic? Like in here, it doesn't look like you're pretty.
Well, I think that young people have a hard time getting themselves to things like library signings. But you know, I've done on this tour, I've done a lot of school events, and so you know, some of the really big schools in like suburban Chicago with 4,000 or 5,000 students, and the number of students who'd already read it was really high. I'm certainly getting a lot of email from young people who've read the book and really like it. So I think that it's reaching a large number of its target audience. I got a really, really lovely email from a kid in San Francisco that was so heartfelt, and he was so geeky and technological and really took the book to heart. And I emailed it to my editor, and he said, "Oh my God, your protagonist sent you a fan letter." And he actually just scored an internship for the summer at the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Cool.
So,
Great.
Excellent.
yeah.
So San Francisco, why?
Well, I used to live there, so it's a place that I can picture pretty vividly in my mind's eye. And I think that San Francisco is a place where, like New York, authoritarianism does not rest easily, and so it would be an uphill battle to turn this place into a DHS police state, and so it seemed like a natural place for a resistance to happen. San Francisco's got a long, honorable tradition of civil liberties activism, obviously. Yeah.
Is the symbolism of the NSA switch being discovered in San Francisco?
No, that happened after the fact, but you know, it's certainly, I don't think, so the NSA had listening posts all across America in wiretapping rooms in central offices of the phone companies all over the country, but it was in San Francisco where one of the telecoms technicians came forward, and I don't think that's entirely coincidental. So if it was going to happen anywhere, I'm not surprised that Mark Klein was a San Francisco tech. Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that the mainstream media is live at best and like pretty much propaganda at worst. So in today's modern era where we have communications technology, what do we do? Everyday citizens can become reporters. Do you think that the citizenry is going to have a greater hand in keeping a leash on the government and keeping their excesses to a minimum? And do you think that the mainstream media, as we've known it, is going to have a place as prevalent?
I think that focusing on the mainstream media is actually the wrong thing to do here. That the thing that's important about the internet is not that it makes it easier for us to communicate, although that's important. The thing that's important is that it makes it easier for us to collaborate. You know, Clay Shirky wrote about this very well in his new book, Here Comes Everybody, that the core problem of human endeavor historically has been getting lots of people to do things together. You know, literally doing something that's more than one person can do is superhuman, right? It's more than one person, it's more than a human can do. And in order to be superhuman, a certain amount of your resources have to be devoted to keeping everyone moving in the same direction. And so big, ambitious projects, the more big and ambitious your project is, the more middle managers you end up having, more communications overhead you have. You know, if any of you have ever read a famous book called The Mythical Man Month, you know, adding more programmers to a late project makes it later. You know, because the coordination costs of more programmers makes the project more expensive.
And yet they keep doing it.
And yet they keep doing it. Yeah, yeah. He wrote that book after helping develop the operating system for the IBM 360 mainframe, and they still haven't learned the lesson.
Exactly.
So yeah, the critical thing that's happened is that it's gotten cheaper to do stuff together, right? We make encyclopedias the way ants build hills, right? We make operating systems the way bees make hives, right? The idea that you could just build an operating system the way, by just inviting people to come and contribute the parts that they think need doing. Imagine if you could build a skyscraper that way, right? Well, we've got this empty lot. If anyone's got any like steel or rivets or architectural drawings or wiring or furniture, just coming on down. We'll just like leave it over the next couple of years and see what happens, right? Maybe we'll move into it in a year or two. And now that operating system, in fact, those operating systems dominate the internet's backbone. Right? So the thing that's really interesting about the internet isn't just that it allows us to do things like citizen reporting. The citizen reporting is an expression of the fact that it's cheaper to do stuff together. And that's really an exciting circumstance. That's a real novel turn of events. And so reporting is going to be a piece of it, but it's wrong to think that that's the main event here. It's a little like not as goofy, but it's a little like, I once heard a guy from the record industry in England talk about, he was like, oh, you people, you look at us from the record industry and you think, oh, they're so crazy, they behave so badly, they reacted so slowly. You just wait, 3D printers are coming, and someday like every business that rests on trademarks or patents, you're all going to be blown away by 3D desktop printing. You're all going to be in trouble. And a friend of mine who was with me said, like a record executive talking about 3D printing, that's pretty prescient. I'm like, yeah, but he thinks the problem with 3D printing is going to be patent and trademark abuse. Right? What about printing AK-47s? Right? This is like thinking that the main event with 3D printing is going to be, or the main event with railroads rather, is going to be what happens to people who make oat bags for horses. Right? It's true that like when the railroad came in, people who made oat bags for horses found themselves without gainful employment. There's probably a crash in oat bag futures, but that was hardly the main effect of the development of the railroad. So, yeah, of course, mainstream media is like all endeavors that have a substantial portion of their energy devoted to keeping everyone pointed in the same direction. Mainstream media has come in for competition from alternative modes of accomplishing the same goals, but that's not that you're looking at the effect, not the cause. Maybe a couple more questions and I'll start reading.